Hey guys, I'm going to review with you real quick what this lesson is going to look like. Just kind of the introductory that we would do, if we were all together in the classroom. So today you're going to be looking at the American Industrial Revolution. We've already covered the Civil War um, and kind of the causes and effects of what resulted from the Civil War. And the next kind of important part of American history is this huge industrial revolution that we go through where almost everything changes about the life for the Americans who lived through this time period because we went from, not having a whole lot of technology to all of a sudden the industrial revolution strikes and we're able to do so much more, and kind of the idea of like the old farm life is kind of going behind a lot of people because of this revolution. So this is section 22 of our textbook. I'll link it in the lesson, but it's also linked here on the header to all of the questions. So where it says read section 1, like if it's underlined, you guys know it's probably a link. So if you hover over that, you'll see that it will open up your textbook. So when I get the textbook open, you can see it looks like this. The American Industrial Revolution. And it is 46 pages. Do not worry, you will not be reading all 46 of those pages. That would be insane. I will read you the introduction real quick because your work kind of starts on section 1, but it's important to read through the introduction. So, the American Industrial Revolution. How did industrialization change the United States? Before the Civil War, most Americans lived on farms or in small towns. They rarely traveled far from home. When they did, they were likely to just go on foot or ride a horse. However, this way of life would change. The changes started in the late 1700s when new inventions brought industries into the northern states. In this lesson, you will learn how industrialization changed the lives of Americans and about its impact on the economy. Industrialization led people to work in factories instead of farms. While the economy of the South was still mainly based on farming, the economy of the North was becoming more based on manufacturing goods. Almost all the factories in the United States were found in the North. Differences between the North and the South kept growing. We saw in the Civil War lessons, the North and the South, they don't have a lot in common. And so when you have all these factories being built up north and still just plantations and farms into the south, that's where we're still finding that divide between the two parts of the United States. After the Civil War, changes came even faster. Canals, steamboats, and railroads transported people and goods quickly over long distances. Many Americans moved to cities and took jobs in factories and offices. Their way of life was changing quickly. Industrialization continued into the 1900s. So that would be like 1800 to 1899. As technology and industries grew, the world became more connected than continuing into the 1900s. Sorry, I misread that. I was thinking it's the 19th century. The world became more connected than it ever had before. Trade between countries became faster and easier. People could now also move to other countries, which led many people moving to the United States to find jobs. These changes would make the United States the world's largest economy, which is crazy considering it's one of the newest countries at this time. Social studies vocabulary: corporation, division of labor, globalization, industrialization, mass production, productivity, and urbanization. So those are those key words that you're going to see pop up in the lesson that you might not be familiar with, but by using the context clues and the words around it, you can kind of figure out what they mean. So here is where your activity actually starts with section 1, early industrialization. So we go back and look at our notes really quick. The first thing it wants us to do is list 2 changes that happened during this time period. So as we read through here, there might be more than 2 changes, but there should at least be 2 big changes that it talks about happening for people in the United States. So real quickly, while we still have time, we'll kind of review this again, just like we would do in class, right? Before the 1700s, many people in the United States and Great Britain lived as farmers. These people sometimes worked in small towns or villages. However, during the late 1700s and early 1800s, Great Britain went through a period of industrialization, which brought about many changes. Advances in science and technology changed how people farmed and produced goods. The British created new tools and harvesting practices which made farming easier. The British also began to use steam power to power new inventions and machinery. The innovations affected how people in Great Britain lived. These innovations would soon affect the people of the United States. Samuel Slater worked in a British factory where he used steam-powered machinery. He later moved to the United States. There, he created a cotton mill powered by water in 1793. Over the next few decades, cloth became the largest industry in the country. Many other industries used technology that Slater brought to manufacture goods for the people of the United States. These changes in manufacturing led people creating many new and different inventions. Many new inventions changed the lives of people. Some of these inventions helped people communicate better. Samuel F.B. Morse, an inventor from Boston, created a telegraph that allowed people to communicate over large distances easily. We know about that, right? Morse code. Other inventions helped people make goods faster. Inventor Elias Howe created the sewing machine in 1846, which helped industries quickly produce goods that had once been made by hand. After the Civil War, industrialization began to grow more quickly. This period of change was called the American Industrial Revolution. The country grew in size during this time. New countries and states joined the Union and provided many new and plentiful natural resources, like coal. These new natural resources were used in many different factories and industries around the United States. As the United States expanded, American industrialists began using their money to make their businesses successful. The free market gave them the choice on how they wanted to spend and make money. New businesses and factories began to appear and compete against one another, and inventors began creating new technologies. As new natural resources and inventions helped industries grow quickly, the way people worked began to change. Before industrialization, many people worked for themselves in small shops and outdoors. After industrialization, factory jobs became common. Young people who had lived on farms moved to cities to work in factories. The growth of these cities is called urbanization. And remember that word, we've seen that word urban before. Way back when, like our first social studies lesson was about urban cities. Real built up urban places have usually skyscrapers and they use public transportation like subways and trains. Now, of course, when we're talking about urbanization at this time, we're not talking about skyscrapers or anything, but we're talking about these cities being built up and all these people starting to live really close together instead of, miles apart on farms. During this time, millions of immigrants came to the United States to find work in brand new industries. Industrialization changed the American economy. During the American Industrial Revolution, there were many changes to how Americans made and used goods. There were also changes to how they traded goods around the United States and with the rest of the world. So we can see picture. There's the telegraph that used Morse code. Here's a picture of a factory. So you can see all these people kind of working side by side. And then section 2, the assembly line. So let's take what we just absorbed from section 1, early industrialization, and let's apply it here. List 2 changes that happened during this time period, during the early industrialization. So right when it all started to begin. So one thing that I saw was that, it kept saying over and over again, new inventions were being made. So new inventions were being created more quickly than ever before. The telegraph was one of these inventions that allowed people to communicate over large distances. Remember, this had never been done before. Like, you could have a relative a state away or even several miles away, and there was no way to communicate with them. So if something happened to them, if they needed to contact you, that was like riding your horse or taking a walk for weeks at a time. The telegraph made it to where you could just send a simple message. I mean, the telegraph operator would have to then like interpret your message and deliver it, but it was so much faster than having to do it yourself. So this was a huge, huge invention of the time. Another thing I saw that it mentioned was talking about all these immigrants coming in and how it aided in the urbanization of large cities. So you've all these new people coming in, all these young people, Americans, non-Americans, needing jobs and coming to the United States for that opportunity. And so they all kind of need to pile into these cities in order to work at the factories rather than, again, the family farm. So urbanization began to take place in cities because factories required lots of workers. Immigrants also started coming to the United States for these job opportunities. So just kind of that big idea of like, people are coming here and young people are coming here to, or young people are moving away from their family farm to take up these opportunities to work in these factories, which didn't exist before. So once they start to, I mean, it's for a lot of people, that was the opportunity to, go into the city and make something of themselves. So this was a huge, huge change in the way people lived. If you were born on a family farm before this period, you probably died on that family farm. Like, that was where you worked, that was where your life was made, and you probably never moved away from home. But after industrialization, after urbanization, people are moving away and they're starting their lives over in other places. So that's a huge change. All right, so that pretty much is it for, I did section 1 with you. You're going to do I did this part of section 1 with you, sorry. You're going to do sections 2 and 3 on your own, but you will need to finish this part of section 1. So if you look on slide 3, it says complete the line graph, plot the 3 data points, and then connect the lines. So I included the 3 dots for you that you need to use, and I included the lines that you can stretch out between them. But you're going to use the data from this table here to put on the graph on the right side. So 1900, we can see it says 30 is the urban population. So if I take that dot, let me find 1900, it's right there. And then I'm going to go up to where it's at 30. So right there, drop that guy right there. And then by 1910, we were at 42. So the next line's 1910, go up to 42. About kind of midway between 40 and 45, right? Drop that there. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? It's just the general idea. And then 1920, we were at 54. So that is up here, kind of going over that one line that's already there. And then I take my little lines here, and it's pretty easy to connect them. You just have to put the line kind of on one dot, and then grab the edge and connect it to the other dot. Yada yada. So you actually don't need all 3 of these. Well, we can use the other line actually. No, I'm not trying to click all that. Alright, so I connect these, and then I might want to connect that one that was already there so it shows a full line, right? So look at that. Look at that graph shooting up. So we're just kind of demonstrating what's happening there. It's the urbanization, people moving to cities is shooting way up over this time period. And then you'll answer the questions on slide 4 about this graph right here. So when it says use the graph, it's talking about this graph, the slide above it. All right, that's really it. So have fun.